what we can kind of take from it is that, there are different sources for the different, periods of history or whatever. But I think in recent years, especially, like I say, like by recent, I would say like 15, 20 years or so, there's been a rise in the amount of foreign language World War II films that are available to us. And I think especially in recent years, I've noticed a lot more on platforms like Netflix. I think Netflix is really good for this as well. And I think they've done a lot of work generally to expand the film industries in other European countries especially. But they pump so much money into the productions, and it brings the production value up.
Yeah.
Because again, I think where lots of people would associate kind of a Scandinavian film with being like an indie.
Yeah, well, you think sort of Bergman, don't you?
It's not going to be like super high quality or something like that. Like it's not going to be like a Hollywood film or whatever.
Yeah, you think sort of Seventh Seal,
Yeah,
couple of actors. Yeah.
So you immediately come at it from a different expectation, and I think where now we're getting loads more films where people from Norway or Denmark or Sweden are able to tell their stories more kind of not necessarily more articulately because they were already articulate, but in a more kind of polished way, in a way that we digest. But I also think that when I watch some of the films, because I've watched a few of the different Scandinavian war films. So, I watched one of the Norwegian ones called Number 24, which is all centered around a resistance agent in Norway who is one of the most famous resistance agents, and it kind of documents his journey through kind of the start of the war with the occupation beginning, kind of lots of the operations that he had to be part of. There were multiple times when he was offered to be taken to the UK to sort of conduct operations and stuff from the UK and the safety of it, but every single time he would sort of he'd refuse. He'd be adamant, like, no, I want to stay. I want to be useful here. And it's a really moving film. I would highly recommend it. I think it shines a light on the resistance movement in Norway, and I think even though one of the other things, because when I was kind of doing a bit more research on the topic, just ahead of us talking about it, I always wondered, like, why isn't the story of Norway or Denmark taught more? And I suppose
it's just you can only teach so much stuff.
You can only teach so much, but at the same time,
it's just not. Yeah,
I feel like we see certain countries it's almost like a side story.
Yeah,
as bad as that sounds, that's kind of the way.
Yeah,
it's viewed.
Completely.
Because when you consider,
that's just life, isn't it? Right, like you can only care about. You care about things in concentric circles. So you care in personal relationships. You care about your family, immediate family the most. Then your friends. Then and it goes out and out and out. It's the same thing with national histories and whatnot. You're going to care most about the place that you're in, and then a little bit less and a little bit less. And unfortunately, they fall in one of those outer concentric circles whereby we only have so much kind of space in the brain to process
absolutely.
Stuff. And
I think that's like a completely psychological kind of reasonable way of describing that, because that is the case.
Yeah.
But I do think that we almost have to actively search out different perspectives.
Yes, I think it's true.
And where
the market doesn't naturally serve us up.
No,
these things you have to go looking for.
You have to go looking for it. But I think also is one of the interesting things that I did kind of find as I came across as I was looking up some bits about this topic, was that someone articulated it a lot better than I will right now, but they almost framed it as, we view Scandinavian theatre as almost a bit of a side story to the main war in Europe, because it didn't necessarily have a massive impact on the front lines.
You could sort of slice it out, and it wouldn't. Maybe that's wrong, but I don't know. But I feel like you could slice out the Scandinavian chapter, and it wouldn't really affect the broad strokes of what happens.
And I think I kind of broadly agree with that kind of theory. However, I would also, specifically in the case of Norway, because Norway is probably the kind of big example of really strong resistance movement, because even though they were occupied for a large portion of the war, they had a very comprehensive resistance network. They carried out numerous raids on kind of German infrastructure and troops in the country. There was a lot of civilian resistance to Nazi occupation. And also, like, at a certain stage of the war, the Germans were trying to develop heavy water in Norway as well, and there was...
Tell me about that. What's that?
So I'm not entirely clued up on the purpose of the heavy water, but I think it was something to do with weapons development or...
And heavy water, sorry, heavy water.
Heavy water
itself is what?
I'm pretty sure it's like a fuel of some kind. I need to...
So what it's like, it's like water, but it's denser sort of thing, it's heavier.
Right, we're going to fact check ourselves in real time here.
Yeah, let's do it. Sounds heavy. This sounds interesting.
Okay, yeah. So heavy water. It's a form of water where the hydrogen atoms are replaced by deuterium, an isotope of hydrogen that contains both a proton and a neutron. And for the non-physics brained people, including me, including all of us apparently here. So in simple terms, the heavy atoms make it denser than regular water and give it unique properties, such as it being used as a moderator in nuclear reactors. So obviously the Nazis did have a nuclear program.
So it's part of that.
But obviously,
interestingly, not radioactive.
No,
it's just a common misconception about it because I think probably because of that.
Well, people associate anything with nuclear energy or weapons and anything with being radioactive.
They think it's going to be sort of glowing,
a different case,
and has a higher boiling point.
But obviously because there's multiple ways that you can power like kind of nuclear reactions. I mean, even with nuclear power, for instance, like you could go with heavy water, or you could go with more kind of like graphite and different regulators to moderate, the reactions that you have within a reactor and stuff.
Yeah.
If you watch Chernobyl if you want to learn about any of that kind of stuff as well.
And to get back to that because I got a bit stuck in Chernobyl. It was just all too bleak. But maybe I'll give that a go.
It's an incredible series. But yeah,
no, very 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 good.